Are farmers markets overregulated? Inspectors harass vendors while vagrants piss and poop in the street. I love farmers markets. The idea of local entrepreneurs selling their homemade or homegrown goods to the people in their community gives me a thrill. It takes me back to a time before major grocery stores and major processed food companies and a more leisurely and cooperative way of life. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate what large-scale food production and retailing have done to help feed people on this planet, and their efforts are surely part of why we have been able to eradicate as much poverty as we have across the globe. But there is still a place for farmers markets and local merchants providing their products to people in the community. With those thoughts in mind, I was excited to see that a vacant lot close to where I live has been turned into a Sunday farmers market. I'm not sure how long the market has been operating, but last Sunday morning I had some time, so I stopped by. The market right now is small. There were only 10 or 12 booths and a food truck selling coffee. The operators had set up a few large canopies, and there was seating for 20 people under the canopy. Several folks were sitting enjoying coffee and goodies they had bought at the market. I noticed something strange. About 30 feet from the vendors selling food other than vegetables, with a rope line with a sign that read "No pets beyond this point." I can't imagine that sign would be there if the farmers market were not complying with some city of Long Beach regulation. Not sure what someone with a dog and a 10-foot leash was supposed to do. Maybe tie the dog to a fire hydrant or fence post somewhere. Meantime, visit Long Beach restaurants with outdoor patios and see how many dogs are sitting underneath or next to their owner's table. I would much rather have the person in front of me buying bread with a dog on a short leash than the person next to me at a restaurant with a dog panting, yapping, and drooling under their table. On this day, there were vendors selling vegetables, flowers, handmade soaps, jewelry, homemade breads, cookies, and pastries, plus the coffee truck. I bought a loaf of potato, dill, and cheese bread from the bread lady. She explained to me that her house has a small rental unit in the back, and instead of renting it out, she uses it as her kitchen for her baked goods. She lived about 5 minutes from the farmer's market, so I was happy to support her efforts and buy one of her loaves. Next, I walked over to the fellow selling pastries and muffins. I stood at his booth for a while watching him have a discussion with a guy holding a pen and clipboard. The discussion went on for a minute or two, and then the guy told me he would be right back. He picked up what looked like a 5-gallon jug with a spout on the bottom and went over to the coffee truck. A discussion ensued between him and the lady running the coffee truck. In the meantime, another gentleman approached, and I asked him if he was the proprietor. He explained he was a friend of the proprietor, and the proprietor would be right back. I waited, and sure enough, in a couple of minutes the other guy came back, placed the jug on the table, and asked me what I wanted to order. I chose one of the spiral raisin croissants. He pulled out a glove from a box, put the glove on, picked up the croissant, put it in a bag, and handed it to me. I handed him the money and took the bag. He then discarded the glove and moved on to the next customer. As with me, he put on a glove, took the customer's order, then after servicing the customer, threw the glove in the trash. I noticed the man with the pen and the clipboard still standing in the booth, shuffling some papers. Then I noticed what looked like a City of Long Beach badge sewn into his shirt. I asked him if he was an inspector. He said he was, and this vendor had not set up his hand washing station properly, and he was overseeing him setting it up correctly. I asked him why does he need a hand washing station? He is using a new glove every time he picks up a pastry to serve a customer. The inspector explained to me, those are the rules. Now remember, this is Sunday morning in Long Beach. A city inspector coming out Sunday morning to inspect farmers market vendors' hand washing stations is probably costing the city triple time. This is in the city of Long Beach, where according to Transparent California, the median compensation for a Long Beach employee is $165,000. That means 50% of city employees are paid more than $165,000 per year in total compensation. My grandmother owned and ran a small bakery. I remember her taking the loaves out of the bread pans and then stacking the loaves onto shelves ready for her customer. I can remember her with bare hands grabbing loaves of bread and other baked goods, bagging them, and giving them to customers. I never saw her wear rubber gloves, and I never heard that any of her customers had died from their experience at her bakery. Now, the guy selling me the croissant did not use his bare hand. He used gloves, and he used a fresh glove for the next customer. So, what if his hand washing station is not set up properly? Do we really need a triple-time city inspector running around farmers markets, issuing warnings and citation, and harassing people trying to earn a living? Now I know that some of you reading this article will say, I am overreacting. The inspector was just doing his job, and after all, we want people to be safe, and we want people who sell food to follow rules and regulations to keep people safe. But who is assessing the risk? Who determines when there are too many rules and regulations? Who determines when there are too many inspectors and inspections? When do those enforcing public safety stop protecting the public and instead work to increase their own compensation and build their own power base in government? And when do the inspectors stop protecting the public and instead get in the way of commerce, capitalism, and citizens earning money to take care of themselves and their families? The week following, I visited a farmer's market in Costa Mesa, a city about 20 miles south of where I live. At that farmer's market, there was a very similar vendor selling pastries and muffins. I talked to him about hand washing stations. He told me that in Santa Ana, he didn't need a hand washing station. The people who needed hand washing stations were people who were prepping food, like making sandwiches or burgers. So two cities just miles apart and two different rules for the person selling croissants. I did not mention that I walked to the farmer's market. It is about 8 blocks from my house. In that 8-block walk, I stepped over 3 vagrants passed out on the sidewalk, who I presume are barfing, peeing, and crapping on the street. Maybe Long Beach should be sending its inspectors to keep homeless vagrants from polluting the neighborhood rather than harassing vendors at the farmer's market for not having a city-approved hand-washing station.